Dear students, good morning to you all. Today we shall discuss about the lesson of history, 8th lesson, status of women in India through the ages. Okay, what was the position of women in India? How they have developed, how they have grown for that, so and so. What we will go to learn from this lesson? Actually, the position of woman in the ancient society, deterioration in the status of women in the medieval period, mid. Okay, the major social evils available, prevalent means available in the Indian society. The role of reformers in the social evils eradication. Eradication means removal. Women emancipation through the removal, through the education. And then social legislations and the empowerment. Empowerment has given the power to the woman further. Okay, come to the introduction. So in general, our society is our society or human society is constantly changing with several habits, cultures, additions, assimilations, and omissions, deletions from within as well as outside. Women provide half of our population. That's you know very well. That's no doubt at all. This is imperative to have historical understanding of the status of women through several ages. Okay, the position of woman was not uniform in all periods. The position of woman was not uniform in all periods, differed with the regional variations, disparities. In ancient India, particularly every Vedic period, women enjoyed equal rights on those days. But with the passage of time, the mid-time, the traveled time to time, their status in the society was found to be deteriorated, that is deleted or decreased, as a result of the frequent foreign invasions. Invasions means entry, Udurval, right? They were subjected to subjugation, slavery. Subjugation means slavery and subordination. New social practices, customs and systems which crept into society in turn put limitations and restrictions on the liberty of women. During the British Raj, the British government, many social and religious reformers like Rajaram Mohan Rai, Dayananda Saraswati and Kesab Chandrasen, as well as Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Pandita Ramabai, Dr. Muthurachim M.A.B.Ed, Jyotiba Phule, Periyar EVR and Dr. S. Dharmambal were the important leaders, right, who fought for the upliftment of the woman, a rise for the status of the woman. Rajaram Mohan Rai's efforts led to the abolition of Sati in 1829, right, with the help of Lord William Bentinck. Sati, you know very well, that was a cruel system or the practiced in our country. Voluntarily they killed the woman after the death of their husband. Same thing, Vidyasagar's crusade for the improvement in the condition of widows led to the passing of Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. Widow Remarriage Act of 1856. The reformers rightly realized that female education as an emancipating agent in eradicating means a removal. Removal of social evils. So they started girls' schools. The social reformers started the girls' schools in various parts of the country, which brought significant changes. The important changes in the life of women. Mostly, women played an important part of Indian freedom struggle. That's you know very well. You have crossed the past year's 6th and 7th subject also. Until independence, there was no radical changes in the status of women. There is no remarkable achievement or the remarkable changes for that. In independent India, for the last few decades, decade is equal to 10 years. Maybe the 20 years or 30 years or 40 years have shown the all-round development of women. Women are now making their presence felt in every walk of their life. Right? What about the position of women in the ancient period? First of all, we will discuss about what is that ancient period. So in the ancient period, the ancient Indus civilization of India, lot of the witnesses show the worship of the mother goddess. They prayed the woman as the God. Hence the adoration for the mother is evident during that period. During the Rig Vedic period, that is the oldest Veda, just you know very well, Rig Vedic period, it is believed that the position of wife was honored and the women's position was acknowledged, especially in the performance of religious ceremonies. Okay, during later Vedic age witnessed a transitional development in the status of woman, restricting her role in the social life except in the performance of religious sacrifices. Her social and political freedom was restricted, controlled. Sati became popular during the latter Vedic period, where the widows either choose for themselves or were forced to jump into the fire of their husbands, funeral fire of their husbands. Isn't it okay? Women were denied, not given the rights to study the Vedic scriptures. Okay, they are not allowed that. What about the position of the medieval period? Say in the medieval period, the position of the woman in the society further deteriorated. Again, make more worse during the medieval period, and they suffered from many social levels such as sati, child marriage. That's very well. Child marriage, maybe in the age of 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 they got married. That female infanticide, pen sisu padugolai, okay, and slavery, adimaitanam, subordination, subjugation. Normally monogamy was practiced, but among the rich polygamy was prevalent then. Monogamy, that is a single man and single woman, that's very well. But our culture allowed on those days for polygamy also, many wives, only one husband. Okay, sati was in practice particularly among the royal and upper strata of the society. Widow remarriage was rare, very very rare. Okay, they are not allowed. Devadasi system was in practice in some parts of India. Devadasi system, that is also one of the cruel system was practiced in our country, especially in Tamil Nadu also. Okay, among the Rajputs of Rajasthan, the Jauhar was practiced, especially that particular community. The condition of widow became miserable, so worst during the medieval period, right? But we don't ignore, we don't go to cross, okay, that the fact that the Mughal ruler Akbar attempted to abolish sati, removed. He tried for that. Okay, in fact, very little attention was paid to female education also. Okay, very little, and they are not giving the proper importance for the education of the women also. So, in spite of the general determination, we can find some exceptions also in the women's side. That is Razia Sultana, Queen Durgavati, and Chand Bibi, and the Nurjahan, who is that Zaganara, and then Zizabai and Mirabai. Okay, during the medieval times, women's education was not completely ignored. Actually, we can't say that those people they are not given, they are not completely ignored for the education, though no regular separate school seems to have existed, right? Female education was informal, not formal. Girls usually had their lessons from their parents in their childhood. The rich appointed tutors, they called the teachers to their home or the palace, and they taught the lessons to their children, okay, to teach their daughters at home. The daughters of Rajput chiefs and Zamindars studied literature as well as philosophy also. What about the British period? For centuries, women in India had been subordinated to men and socially oppressed. Okay, they may slave of the men as well as socially oppressed, controlled cruelly. The major effect of national awakening, social rise, Vilipunarchi, in the 19th century was seen in the field of social reform. The enlightened persons increasingly revolted against rigid social evils and outdated customs also. Okay, numerous individuals, reform societies and religious organizations have developed. They worked hard to spread the education, especially for the women education, right, among the women, to encourage the widow remarriage. Actually, on those days, our people, they did not accept or appreciate what is a widow remarriage. So, because of this formal education by the British government, they enriched or they have given the facility for widow remarriage, to improve the living conditions of widows. Okay, to avoid marriage of young children, and then they enforce the monogamy, that is a single man and single woman. Okay, not polygamy, and to enable middle class women to take up professions or public employment. They have created the jobs also, okay, for the women. In the beginning of 19th century, female literacy was extremely low when compared to the male literacy. Female literacy was extremely low compared to the, what is it, male literacy. And the Christian missionaries was the first step to first set up the Calcutta what is that, juvenile female juvenile society in 1819. The Bethune School was founded in 1849. The next school by J.E.D. Bethune. His name is also available there. Who was the president of the Council of Education in Calcutta. Okay. Then Charles Wood's Dispatch on Education in 1854 laid a great stress on the need of female education. Okay. And then Indian Education Commission, which is called as Hunter Commission of 1882, recommended to start the primary schools for girls, okay, and teacher training institution, and suggested special scholarship and prizes for girls, right? In 1880, Indian women began to enter universities also. They got the chance because of British government. They had created school to college as well as universities also. With the help of that, many women, they had a chance to enter for the schools, colleges as well as the universities also. They were also trained to become doctors as well as what is it, teachers also. So comparing with the ancient period and then the Vedic period and medieval period, somewhat important or the status of women had raised in the time of who is that, British government. Okay, that's we can't able to forget that. So and British government began to give the chance for to write the books and magazines also for the women. So some of the women, they had written some books and magazines. In 1914, the Women's Medical Service did a lot of work in training midwives like as nurses. In the 1980, D.K. Kaur created a number of female schools in Pune. Okay, number of female schools in Pune. Beginningly Calcutta, we have seen that. Next Pune. Professor D.K. Kaur and then Pandita Ramabai made sincere effort to emancipate women through education was really remarkable. That's an achievement. Okay, that's an achievement. The Indian Women's University was started by Professor D.K. Kaur in the year of 1916. Right? It was an outstanding institution to impart means providing education to the women. In the same year, Lady Hardinge Medical College was started in New Delhi also. So schools, colleges and universities as well as the medical colleges, lot of the developmental opportunities for the education to our Indian women. Okay, that's one of the important thing for that. Then what are the major social levels on those days? What happened that first one is female infanticide that I already told you, pen sisu padugolai. Okay, the lot of the reasons are there. We will discuss one by one. Female infanticide was another inhuman practice affecting the 19th century of the Indian society, right? 19th century. It was particularly in Rajputana, where it happened for that Rajputana, Punjab, and then northwestern provinces. Okay, so it was mainly to avoid the economic burden. See, the parents, they thought that if the female child that it had completed education, then we may spend more money at the time of marriage in the future also. So they their bad thought is something, but they don't want the female child. They need only for the male child. They want to kill them. Okay, that's a worst and cruel thought was practiced on those days for that. That is called as female infanticide, right? So factors such as family pride, gauravam, kudumba gauravam, isn't it okay? The fear of not finding suitable match for the child, right? Were some of the major reasons responsible for this practice. Therefore, immediately after the birth of female child, the female infants were being killed. That was a pathetic one. That was a cruel one also. The company's administration in India took steps to stop this practice by passing Bengal Regulatory Act of 21. Okay, 21 of 1795. In the year of 1795, the Regulating Act of as well as 1802 and then Female Infanticide Act of 1870. There were three acts were created by the British government to stop or ban the cruel act of what is that, female infanticide. One. Another one is female foeticide. Female infanticide. What is female foeticide? It is also an inhuman practice which cuts across the caste, creed, class and regional boundaries. Okay, whether it is a female infanticide or female foeticide, the prime motive remained the same one. Okay, they are going to killing for them. In order to ban the female foeticide and sex determination, the central government passed various acts also. But nowadays also that was those acts was violated by our some of the people, cruel people. Next one practice is child marriage. That is also one of the worst practice that was practiced by our society. The practice of child marriage was another social disgrace for the woman. Okay, social disgrace for the woman. Child marriage also. Okay. See, in 1846, our government fixed the minimum marriageable age for girls was only 10 years. See, students, on those days, actually 10 years is nothing but the child may be studying in, what is that, 5th standard or 6th standard, I think so. Isn't it okay? That time they got married. See, what for the cruel practice was practiced by our people on those days for that. So, the British government had enacted several laws or the rules for fixing the age of, who is that, girls marriage age. So, the Native Marriage Act was passed in 1872. That's first act. It fixed the minimum marriageable age of girls at the 14 as well as boys at the age of 18. Right? In the year of 1930, the Central Legislative Assembly passed Ray Sagap Sarada's Child Marriage Bill. That is one of the act fixing the minimum marriageable age for boys at 18 and for 14 for girls. Okay. So it was later amended. I already told you, amendment is nothing but that is the minor change in the existed act. Already the act was created that. Once again the government has made some of the corrections, okay, or minor change, which is called as a amendment. 18 for girls and 21 for boys according to the Hindu Marriage Act of 1995. At present we are practicing this one only, I think so. Right? And then Sati, already we have discussed many times for that. It was the social, evil, okay, cruel practice that was prevailed in the Indian society, especially among the Rajputs. Earlier, it was a voluntary act, okay, but later by the relatives forced the widows to sit on the funeral fire. Okay, the Italian traveler Niccolo Conti, who visited Vijayanagar Empire, you know, famous Vijayanagar Empire, no, in the year of 1420, okay, Christian era, notes that the inhabitants of this region marry as many wives as they please who are burned with their dead husbands. Okay, in the early years of 19th century, Sati was in practice in various parts of Bengal, Western India and Southern India. In 1811, Jagan Mohan Roy, okay, who is that? He was the brother of Ram Mohan Roy. They are the famous social reformers, passed away and his wife was burnt along with him. Okay, right? Ram Mohan Roy was moved to the extreme or the sight of it and took an oath, Urdimoli, which means called as oath, that he would have the cruel practice abolished by law. Abolished means what is that? Cancelled or deleted, detried. He carried on a continuous agitation, propaganda, through press and platform for the abolition of Sati. Rajaram Mohan Roy published his tracts in 1818 to 1820, making the point that the writ of Sati was not enjoined by the states. Okay, enjoined by the Shastras. No Shastra has allowed or told what is you have to practice the Sati is the good practice for that. No one can say, or no one Veda can say for that. This material was used by the Sarafud missionaries to shatter the generally accepted view that Sati was an integral part of the Hindu religion, as well as what is that orthodox Hindu opinion against the abolition was advocated by Radha Kantadev and Bhavani Charan Banerjee. His name was called as Banerjee. When Lord William Bentinck, he was the Governor General of India, he took up the question of Sati and he found the abolition had been recommended by the judges of the criminal courts. Actually, he was the main person to remove the or abolish the Sati. He passed a regulation of what is that? 17 Act of in the year of December 4, 1829, declaring the practice of Sati or burning or burying alive the widow of Hindus, who is that? Hindus, illegal and punishable by criminal courts. Okay. Similar legislative measures were created soon after in Bombay and Madras because of Lord William Bentinck. And what is meant by Devadasi system? See, the word Devadasi, which is a Sanskrit word, or Devar Adiyal, Tamil, okay, which means servant of God, dancing girl dedicated to the service of God in the temple beginning. But later, it was a social level. There was also tradition of dedicating one daughter to the temple. In addition, or taking care of the temple, they learned and practiced Bharatanatyam and other classical traditional Indian arts. Later on, they were ill-treated and humiliated. Avamanam. Okay, avamanapaduthuthal. The Devadasis lost their dignity and sense of pride and self-respect and honor. Dr. Muthurachim M.A.B.Ed, who was the first woman doctor in India, you know very well, children, dedicated herself for the cause of abolishing the cruel practice of Devadasi system from Tamil Nadu. Dedicated, okay, entire whole-hearted life was dedicated to remove the cruel practice of Devadasi system from Tamil Nadu. That credit that has gone to only Dr. Muthurachim M.A.B.Ed. She was the first woman doctor in India, not only for Tamil Nadu, in India. Okay, appreciating her role in the agitation against the Devadasi system, she was nominated to the Tamil Nadu Legislative Council in 1920, like as MLA seat. Okay, MLC on those days, it is called as MLA. Periyar E.V. Ramasamy, that was the biggest and famous social reformer of Tamil Nadu, isn't it? Okay, was instrumental in passing the Devadasi abolition bill. Dr. Muthurachim M.A.B.Ed. proposed the bill to the Madras Legislative Council in the year of 1930. Mooduru Ramamitham was also one of the social reformer, another woman who fought for the emancipation, removal of the Devadasi system, okay, with the continuous moral support of the, who is that, rendered by the Rajaji, our famous social and political leaders, Rajaji, as well as Periyar and Thiruvi Kalyana Sundarnar, and she raised a slogan against this cruel practice. As a result, government passed the finally Devadasi Abolition Act. Now the system was not practiced in Tamil Nadu as well as in India also. So what was the role of the social reformers? From the second half of the 19th century, a number of social reformers, okay, and social reform movements sought to search to promote the upliftment of women by giving them education, raising their marriageable age, and taking care of widows, as well as to remove the rigidity of caste and raise the suppressed class to a status of equality. The reformers who led the movements were the forerunners of the modern India. Modern India. Among the first one is Rajaram Mohan Rai, you know very well. He was a famous social reformer in India. He was a main important role to remove the sati in the India also. There were some enlightened Indians who supported the British attempt to reform the oppressive social order of India. The first was the abolition, removal or the deletion of sati by law on humanitarian grounds. Rajaram Mohan Rai was the pioneer of the Indian social reform movement, was a casteless crusader of sati after having seen this practice in the case of his own sister-in-law. Actually, he was affected very, very cruelly and depressed further. He started his propaganda against this inhuman evil practice. Influenced by the ruthless, merciless attack of the movement led by Ram Mohan Rai, the British government declared this act as culpable, homicide act. Rajaram Mohan Rai is most remembered for helping Lord William Bentinck to declare the practice of sati is a punishable offence in 1829. He also opposed against child marriage and female infanticide. He favored the remarriage of widows, female education, as well as women's right to property. Thus, the evil practice of sati on any scale was wiped out. Okay. And next one is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Next to the Rajaram Mohan Rai. So he carried on the movement on female education, widow remarriage, and the abolition of polygamy in Bengal. Okay, he submitted petitions to this effect to the Indian Legislative Council and to the passing of a Hindu Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. His son Narayan Chandra set an example to others by marrying a widow of his choice. See the famous social reformer son, he married a widow. To promote female education, Vidyasagar founded several girls' schools in the districts of Nadia and then Midnapur, Hooghly and Burdwan in Bengal. Okay. Next one is Kandukuri Veerasalingam. Veerasalingam, famous name. Okay, Kandukuri Veerasalingam Pandulu was an earliest champion in South India of women's emancipation. He published a journal. What is that? Viveka Vardhani. He opened his first girls' school in 1874 and made widow remarriage and female education on the key points of his program for social reform. And then Mahadeva Govinda Ranade and B.M. Malabari. In Bombay Presidency, M.G. Ranade and B.M. Malabari carried on the movement for the upliftment of the women. In 1869, Ranade joined the Widow Remarriage Association and encouraged widow remarriage and female education and opposed child marriage. In 1887, he started the National Social Conference, which became a pre-eminent institution for the social reform. Right? And then in 1884, B.M. Malabari, a journalist, started a movement for the abolition of child marriage. He published pamphlets on this subject and appealed to the government to take action. Right? Okay, the next heading is Gopalakrishna Gokhale. He was the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi also. In 1905, Gopalakrishna Gokhale started the Servants of India Society, which took up such social reform measures as a primary education. What is that? Primary education, female education, and depressed classes upliftment. The spread of female education further led to the participation of women in the freedom struggle. Right? That's for the duty of the Gopalakrishna Gokhale. And next, Periyar EVR. I already told you he was one of the social reformer of the Tamil Nadu. Periyar EVR was one of the greatest social reformer of Tamil Nadu. He advocated women education, widow remarriage, and intercaste marriages, and opposed the child marriages also. Okay, and what may be the other women reformers? See, most of the reform movements like Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Prarthana Samaj were led by the male reformers who see the limit of the freedom and development of women. Women reformers like Pandita Ramabai, Rukmabai, and Tarabai Shinde tried to extend further. In 1889, Pandita Ramabai opened Sarada Sadan, which is called as Home of Learning for Hindu widows in Bombay. It was later shifted to Pune. Okay, her greatest legacy work was her effort, the first in India, to educate the widows, to give the education for the widows. Theosophical Society was established at Chennai, and Dr. Annie Besant, okay, who came from Europe and joined it. That was a society to develop general social reform program. And then Dr. S. Dharmambal was another reformer, especially in Tamil Nadu, who was very much influenced by the ideas of Periyar. She showed great interest in implementing widow remarriage and women education. Among Muvudur Ramamritam Ammayar raised her voice against Devadasi system along with Dr. Muthurachim Ammayar. In her memory, the government of Tamil Nadu has instituted the Muvudur Ramamritam Ammal Ninaivu Marriage Assistance Scheme, a social welfare assistance to poor women, as poverty was the root cause of all these evils. Isn't it okay? Thus, women reformers also contributed a lot of winning their own rights. Okay, leading women realized the need of forming their own associations in order to safeguard their interest. As a result of three major national women organizations. First one is a Women's India Association, and then National Council of Women in India, and then All India Women's Conference were founded. Okay. In the freedom movement, if you see the freedom movement, in the early anti-colonial struggle, women played a major roles in various capacities. Okay. Among them, Velu Nachiyar of Sivaganga, that you studied from history lesson also, fought violently against the British and restored her role in Sivagangai, presence it is called as Sivagangai. Begum Hazrat Mahal as well as Rani Lakshmi Bai, and then led an armed revolt of 1857 against the British. 1857 there was a major revolt was held in India, no? Okay. In the freedom struggle, thousands of women came out of their home, boycotted their foreign goods, marched in procession, defied laws, not obeyed the laws, received lathi charges voluntarily, and quoted jails. Their participation in the struggle added a new dimension of the mass character. Okay. So, what may be the impact of the reform movement? Effect, result. Some of the important advances were made in the field of emancipation of women. Okay, advancement of women. It created national awakening, Vilipunarchi, among the masses. Right. Among that, what is that? It created the feeling of sacrifice, service, rationalism. Okay. The practice of sati and infanticide were made illegal. It permitted widow remarriage. Some of the advantages also available for that. So, what may be the condition of women in independent India? Women in India now participate in all activities such as education, politics, medical, culture, service sectors, science and technology. You know very well. It is an unavoidable one. The Constitution of India, the Article 14, guarantees of equal opportunity and equal pay of equal work for both male and female. The national policy for the empowerment has given the power of women was passed under the National Policy on Education 1986. New program was launched called Mahila Shamakya. Its main focus was on empower of women, and then a reservation of 33% of women and provided an improvement in the social as well as political status of women. Okay, 33%. The National Commission for Women was set up in January 1992. That's important commission. Its main functions is to review women-related legislation and intervenes in specific individual complaints of atrocities, cruelties, and the denial of rights, not given the rights for them. Okay, and some of the acts is also created by British government as well as we will see one by one. First one is Bengal Regulation Act of 21 in 1804 to provide the female infanticide was declared as illegal. Regulation of Act of 1829. Practice of sati was declared illegal. Hindu Widows Remarriage Act of 1856, it permitted widow remarriage. Okay. Native Marriage Act of 1872, that gives the Child Marriage Act was prohibited. Child marriage was prohibited. The Sharda Act of 1930 provides the age of marriage was raised for boys and girls. And then finally, Devadasi Abolition Act of 1947, it abolished the Devadasi system. Okay, students. So we have seen the position of women was not uniform in all periods and differed with regional variations. Okay, there were many social evils in Indian society. Right, a number of social reformers and social reform movements sought to promote the upliftment of women by giving them education. Right. Women in India now participate in all activities. Okay, those are the things that we are seeing for that. So from this, you go through the lesson line by line and word by word. Okay, if you have any doubt, call me or WhatsApp me. I will give the explanation. Thank you one and all. We'll meet later.